going to be talking about some work that the Geological Survey of Ireland has been undertaking over the last couple of years with ourselves and research partners in UCD, and hopefully a good example again of that idea with the decarbonisation zones of kind of acting locally but impacting nationally. So geothermal, quite simply put, is no matter where you are in the world, the deeper you go in the ground, the hotter it gets. Now, where you are in the world, that'll change how quickly you get to a certain temperature, but the heat is there. The Earth is a natural source of heat. The centre of the Earth is the same temperature as the sun, and all that heat is moving up through the Earth and going out through the surface. And all we're trying to do with geothermal is just capture that heat on the way out. There's a variety of different technologies you can use for geothermal. Essentially, all we're trying to do is take a radiator and plug it into the ground and use the natural heat. The advantage of geothermal is it's highly scalar. You know, anything from a single house to a whole district heating system is very common in Europe. It can be used for heating. It can be used for cooling. It can be used in times for electricity generation, for heat storage. Again, the idea of using, sort of peak, off-peak electricity, for example. So a very flexible technology. Within the Irish energy system, some of the key benefits are it's very clean. We talk about clean air. There's no particulates, no emissions. It's one of the lowest CO2 technologies out there. It's secured. This is our resource. It's local. It's beneath your feet. So in terms of energy shocks, all of those, it's sort of immune to it. But one of the key things is efficiency. One of the counterfactuals often in studies for renewable heating, for example, which is really where we see geothermal in Ireland, is air source heat pumps. And a ground source heat pump is always going to be more efficient than an air source heat pump. And when you scale that up nationally, when you're talking about electrifying the heat system in Ireland, you can end up with almost a gigawatt or more of energy grid saving. And that's huge because that's a gigawatt of energy that you don't have to install. Not only that, it's the nature of the what do you call peak demand shaving. So you don't need to plan your system for as high peak loads as you do with air source heat pumps, and that can create further cost savings in terms of the import capacity you have in a housing estate or in a building development. So a lot of great advantages to using it. In terms of where we're at with it in Ireland, for sort of ground source heat pump stuff, very much a proven technology. This hotel has a ground source heat pump system that it uses, as does the city offices. Or the county council offices, but we are nowhere near scaled up on this. So we got 209 megawatt term of installed capacity in ground source heat pump systems in Ireland. One of the things we do really well in Ireland is compare ourselves unfavorably to Nordic countries, and that's what I'm going now. In Sweden, it's about 6.5 gigawatt term of geothermal that they have in place. And geology wise, they have nothing special compared to what we have. That's just a matter of policy and culture around it. So to address this, what the department is doing is got a policy on geothermal. GSI helps with that by gathering data, creating understanding, trying to find investments. We're part of a big European project in the border region that's kicking off, but awareness is a big one, and what we've been looking to do is partner with local authorities, and that's where Offaly County Council came into our sphere. Again, they were recommended to us as an agency that was very progressive in the climate space, and so as a result of that, at our National Geothermal Summit, we had John McNally come and speak, and subsequently we spent a lot of time with John and Mark Mann there, talking about what we could do for geothermal in Offaly, and you saw the video on the well, so I won't go into too much detail, but then in Clonminch we drilled the well down to 1 kilometre, got some specialist data on it, as well as the core, and this has really helped us understand potential, not just here but right across the Midlands, the type of temperatures we're dealing with, the sort of pathways, some of the fractures in the rock there where you could get fluid moving through it. So really, I can't thank Offaly County Council enough for it, because GSI operates in quite a constrained manner, and providing a site with water, fencing, things like that, it really helped us achieve our goal of what we're trying to do. And again, the the well was drilled just in here in the very south of the decarbonisation zone. What it's told us is across the decarbonisation zone, with deep geothermal, what we call deep geothermal beneath 500 meters, you could have temperatures of anywhere between 25 and 45 degrees within the decarbonisation zone. We managed to use that information. This is the Tullamore zone there, to feed a larger model across the Midlands and into Dublin Basin. You can see you're getting down to about 3,500 kilometers there, where we might get 90, 100 degree temperatures. But certainly the Midland, the Offaly region is an area that looks like its potential. More investment is required in deep geothermal in terms of seismic data, more specialized wells to try do pump testing. But certainly a good indication that there's temperatures there to work with. What is absolutely the case is that ground source heat pump is a proven technology in Ireland, and something that's very much suitable in Tullamore. This map here is the sort of open loop, which is what this hotel works off. Great shallow aquifer in Tullamore to do that. We also developed a new method to look at closed loop, where you don't use the aquifer, you're just exchanging heat with the rock. And we built a base model for a system of about 1.5 gigawatt hours per year, which would be pretty similar to these things on the left, like a large hotel, a healthcare facility, public or commercial office, or sort of a large networked housing estate. And what we use that to sort of calculate how much heat would one of those take from the ground, what's the rock like. Again, we got information from the well, and how much heat is beneath Tullamore. And so the answer is, for those commercial scale systems, half a terawatt hour per annum. So that's 500 gigawatt hours of heat per year is just sitting there under the Tullamore decarbonisation zone. So that's a massive number. If you're thinking of that in terms of individual houses, we're in a separate model. You could heat over 7,000 B1 homes within the Tullamore decarbonisation zone just from the heat that's in the earth using ground source heat technology. But as was mentioned, affordability is critical in the energy trilemma. It's sustainability, security, and affordability. So what we did was run economics to compare again versus air source heat pumps. I'm not going to go into all the details, but especially where you have mixed load, where you've got a cooling element in there, because geothermal provides cooling. Sounds at odds, but you can basically circulate water into the ground, which might be 14, 15 degrees, and on a 25 degree day, it gives you cooling without even running the heat pump. And certainly, as we've seen in the last few days, that's something that's going to become more prevalent in Ireland. When you compare that to running a chiller, you can see the cost per kilowatt hour is half running geothermal in a cooling mode than running, let's say, a commercial scale chiller. But generally speaking, on a sort of a daily cost basis, you're looking at 5-6 cents per kilowatt hour. You do have upfront capital though, and that's where for individual householders that could be more a challenge, which is why we're trying to think of this more at a larger scale. And so what if it's a whole housing estate, or what if it's something that the public sector can support? What if there's grants for some of the capital to, again, because there's benefits to the overall grid system in this. And so that's really one of the things we want to work at going forward with the county council. I had a good discussion with Mark about this earlier. We've kind of started this geothermal working group in Offaly. We'd like to expand to a kind of wider Midlands area. Some of that is about transferring knowledge back in. We're doing this Gemini project where we're going to do a geothermal project in a leisure centre in Sligo. So every county council in the country has leisure centres under its control. We want to have a mechanism to feed that knowledge back in about the practicalities, procurement, planning, all of those type of things. We really want to make sure that geothermal data is integrated into other analysis, like the district heating that we're going to hear about shortly. That's a key thing to make sure. Sometimes we're a bit siloed with renewable technology, but geothermal plays well with solar, plays well with, as I said, heat storage, things like that. And I think the last point really is one that we really want to keep the relationship going, is trying to find exemplar projects. There's clearly ambition here. You can see it from events like this. But something like, I always use the example of I have a field next to me where they're going to put 100 houses in, and they'll have 100 air source heat pumps on those houses. Be really good to try an innovation project, for example, where you do one centralized well field or ground source well collector that has a shared ground loop, again with the heat balancing thing that you could heat a whole range of houses. I think that would have a lot of carbon benefit in terms of not just the heating and cooling, but the things like embodied steel. So that's where we're at. Exciting time ahead, hopefully.